and welcome to Eat These Words. It's Sunday afternoon and I've decided to make well, we call it shepherd's pie, but it's technically cottage pie. I'm going to be making it with beef instead of lamb. So, first of all, cheers. And secondly, this is how we make cottage pie in this house. So first of all, heat up a pan with some oil in it. So it's up to you what oil you use. I'm using olive oil, not extra virgin olive oil, normal olive oil. I've got a pan of potatoes here that I'm going to use to top my shepherd's pie with. I'll just pop that to the back there for now. Quite a small amount of things that you need for a cottage pie. An onion, carrot, some mince, a few herbs, salt and pepper, water and gravy. The first thing I'm going to do is soften my vegetables in my oil. So, take in chopped carrot and one chopped onion. I'm going to soften those in my pan. So that's all my carrot and onion in my pan, and I'm just going to let these soften. And to help it along, and to stop it the onions browning too much, I'm just going to pop a little bit of salt in there. It brings out the juices in the onion and the carrot and stops the carrot and the onion from browning too much. So once I've got those in the pan, I'm just going to stir them around for a few minutes until they are soft. So a quick trick, if your pan has dried up a little bit and you're still waiting for your carrots and your onions to soften, but you don't want to add too much oil, add a splash of boiling water. What that does is it creates steam around the vegetables that you've got in your pan and helps it cook out a lot quicker without having to add the extra fat from oil. And then just continue as you were, stirring until your vegetables soften. If you need to add more, do so. So my carrots and my onions have been softening a bit now, and when I look at them, they're starting to get clearer. It's not as white as it was to start off with. So what I'm going to do now, some people agree with this, some don't, this is just the way I make mine, is pop in 500 grams of beef mince. Now this is 5% and I'm going to break it up in my pan, so it's going to mean using my hands. Just going to break it up into pieces. 500 grams of 5% meat, 5% steak mince to be exact. Means that I don't have to drain any fats off. If you're using a higher percentage of fat in your beef or mince, then you may need to drain those as you go. Drain the fat off as you go. So in again with my spoon and just start to incorporate the mince with the carrots and the onions. Let it sit for a second or two to get some colour on it more than anything. Don't always be moving it around. It is good for it to sit still for a few minutes here and there. At this point, get your kettle boiled because you will need it. In the meantime, cheers. I find one of these is really good. It's a chop stir. And my nephew and my son laugh at me for using this, but really it's good for breaking up meats and things. As you can see, it's starting to brown now, but we just need it to cook out a bit more. You know it's getting better when it starts to break up a little bit easier. So what we're going to do is add some flavourings to it. So in the form of, first of all, some tomato puree. Not everybody adds this, but I like it for the colour it gives. You don't need a lot, about a tablespoon or a squeeze for whatever your heart desires really. I'm going to add some bay leaf, one large bay leaf going in, some thyme, about a teaspoon, About a teaspoon going in. About half a teaspoon of celery salt going in. On top of that, I'm going to put in about a tablespoon of a tablespoon of Lee & Perrins Worcestershire sauce for all you Americans, Worcestershire. And we're going to mix all that in. You can also add wine if you want. I'm sorry, but I'm drinking mine today. It's not authentic putting wine in, but it is nice. All the wine's going in my mouth the traditional route today. When you've got your tomato puree mixed in, it's time to add some stock cubes. And I like to add 2 OXO cubes. Well, 2 to 3 tablespoons of plain flour. I said in my essential store cupboard video that you could use plain flour as a thickener, and this is where I'm going to use it as a thickener today to thicken up my mince. So I think I'll put 3 in because my husband and my father like thick gravy. So that's 3 tablespoons in there, and we'll just mix that in. And we need to cook this out for a little while. The thing is with flour, if you're using flour as a thickener, it won't be lumpy if you add the flour to the ingredients. It will go lumpy if you add the flour to the water. There's a trick for you. If you've got a pan that sticks, don't worry. If you get like a load of brown stuff on the bottom of your pan, that's what we want. It's called flavour. So don't be worrying. Mine's non-stick, my pan, so it won't have any. But you could well have brown stuff on the bottom, especially after you've added flour. Don't be worrying, because the next thing we're going to add, we'll get rid of it. And we're going to add roughly a pint of hot water. Maybe more if you so wish. I tend to eyeball this, so I tend to make it go as far as the top of the mince, and then I give it a stir and see where we're at. If it gets too thick for you, add some more water. And what we're going to do is cook this out until the carrots are soft, which will be about 10 minutes or so. Okay, so my mince has been simmering now for about 5 to 10 minutes. What I'm going to do is add my peas. It's up to you what vegetables you add to this, of course. I would stick with onions and carrots to start with, and then after that it's up to you. So I've got the end of a bag of garden peas that I'm going to put in. There's about 50 grams and they're frozen, so I'm just popping them in. And I'm going to heat them through and then turn off the heat. Remember as well that this is going in the oven when we're finished. These peas will continue to cook in the oven. They don't need long peas. Turn the heat off. Take out my bay leaf because it's done its job. And I'm going to pop this to one side for just to cool down slightly. And then I'm going to take my potatoes, put some salt into my potatoes, salt my potatoes. To switch that on and let them cook through, and then we're going to mash them. Take about 20 minutes, maybe slightly less, depending on how many people are using the cookers today. And we'll come back and see what's going on. How to test some potatoes to see if they're cooked. Well, take your lid off, get a fork or a knife, either does, and press it into your potatoes. Now, these ones aren't giving at all, so they're not ready. So we need to check again in a few minutes. They'll be ready when your fork goes in nicely and it doesn't feel as if there's any resistance. So to check my potatoes yet again, yeah, that's cooked. Push them in. That one's cooked because I can't feel any resistance and it comes out clean. So I'm going to knock my potatoes off, drain them. Now do this carefully, everybody. When you drain potatoes, I tend to use oven gloves to drain my potatoes. So oven gloves, wrap them round. Put the lid on so it's kind of on the edge. Can you see this? Yes, you can. Good. Grab either side and tip them into the sink. So give me 1 second while I just go and do this. Stick them back on where they were and just leave them for a minute or two, just to dry up a little bit with the steam that's in there. And while that's drying, what you need to do is get yourself a potato masher, salt and pepper, and if you want to use it, then some butter or milk, or milk, whatever you prefer. I personally prefer just using good old-fashioned spread. Taking a spoon, now this is where you let your heart decide. If you want to put a lot of butter in, put a lot of butter in. If you don't. If you don't want to put any butter in at all, don't put any in. It's up to you. But you also need pepper and salt, or salt and pepper, whichever you're using. And potatoes need quite a hefty amount of seasoning. Now, I know it looks like there's quite a bit going in here. Believe me, they can take it. Taking your masher, the best way you know how, give it a squish. And basically just keep going until you're happy with the consistency that you've got. There's no art form to this, I have to say. It's just keep going. You can also add onion salt to this, garlic salt, chives, parsley, whatever your heart desires. Today I'm going to be a purist and leave them as they are. And taking our mince from earlier, we're going to place our potatoes on top of our mince. Just go around. I find a shepherd's pie or a cottage pie takes quite a lot of mashed potatoes, I have to say. So what I tend to do is I cover the top, I take a fork and I spread the potato about the place. So, there we go. You could also put cheese on top of this. You can put these in the oven, gas mark 6, 180 degrees until the top is brown, which is roughly half to 3/4 of an hour. Just thought I'd show you what it looks like when it comes out the oven. So this is my shepherd's pie, and I'm going to go and have some tea now.